Hello friends and welcome back to the channel. I have made a lot of mistakes building up my roster, my descendants, and also my weapon list. And really, there's just a kind of a lot thrown at you in the First Descendant, and it's kind of hard to, I guess, triage what's the most important things to focus on and what's not really that important. So in today's video, I want to try to illustrate how I have started to approach building up my different descendants so that I have the easiest time possible in hard mode. Of course, not everyone might have this same approach, but this is just how my playstyle kind of evolved over time. I'll start with the descendants first because I think that is probably going to be your most important thing. I actually just unlocked Enzo here, so I'm going to try to show how I'm going to start off building Enzo. So first things first, your descendant modules. Of course, this kind of controls both your defensive outputs or mitigation rather, and also some of your offensive outputs. And the way I was kind of building up my different descendants initially was kind of just a little bit of both. I ended up just kind of committing to a build that looked maybe something like this, where you're just taking a little bit of everything, like, oh, maybe some skill cooldown, maybe a little bit of skill power modifier, defense, just kind of taking whatever and just throwing it in there and just hoping that you fill up your mod capacity and just kind of make that work as your build. However, I don't think that's the best approach to take. And here is how I have since kind of prioritized the different mods for my descendants. So the first thing, like I said, you kind of have three different priorities in your descendant. You have your defensive powers, you have your offensive powers, and then there's some utility things, like your different sub attacks, your skill modifiers. You also have some cooldown in here and just like heal up, stuff like that, utility skills like that. And so what I think the two highest priority things to start focusing on for the descendants are going to be your sub attack, which can be either a melee attack or it can be a grapple modifier. And these are important because leveling these up gives you additional skill power modification, or skill power. I am just saying the wrong shit. This gives you additional mod capacity. So right now I have 47 as my mod capacity cap, but if I equip this grapple hook modifier that I have fully maxed out, it is now going to go up to 57. So immediately leveling up those skill, modifiers, I couldn't find the words there. These are going to give you additional mod capacity, and that's going to go a long way for just allowing you to fit additional mods in that kind of cater towards your build. After that, I think the two most important things to focus on when you're initially building up your different descendants are going to be health and defense. I think building up your descendant with a defensive mindset first is going to allow you to have a lot more staying power. I mean, a lot of damage in this game does come from our guns after all. And when you're just kind of running around trying to run and gun, but you have no health, it really makes for a little bit more of a lackluster experience. So really, I think focusing a lot more into defense and health is going to make your experience a lot better. One thing to probably try to avoid is shield modifiers. Right now, shield just feels extremely weak, and I don't think it's really going to do a whole lot for you in the total. Maybe in the early game it'll do some stuff, but in the end game, your shield just gets shredded through. And really, I think there's other modifiers that really just play better into health versus defense, like Iron Will, for example. When your shield is at 0%, you're getting an additional increase to your defense. This is a massive boost to damage reduction whenever your shield is reduced. I think that this is overall going to reduce more damage. Now, after you've built up your defensive stats a little bit more, I think the next thing to focus on for your loadout in general is going to actually be your weapon mods. So one thing that, again, I was kind of skimping out on a little bit, I'm using just a bare bones like level 4 ominous hound that I just bought from the vendor to kind of illustrate this. Again, my mod capacity for this gun right now is 48. So this is how it would usually look like when I was initially building up my guns. I would just toss in stuff like rifling reinforcement for attack up, maybe some fire rate up, and then crit rate up and crit damage up wherever that is. Right, no, where is that? Right here. Basically just kind of focusing on a really large mixed bag of different bonuses. So I don't know, just my build would end up looking something like this. And I would essentially just fill up my mod capacity with basically things that weren't really doing a whole lot for my gun. And really, you're just better off maybe going with a build that looks something closer to like this. Just like select 4 different mods and then choose the mods that have just a higher level up, or just like focus on leveling up specific mods that look something like this. These bonuses, they scale up insanely well, or just very high the higher the level of the mod goes. So like, for example, I'm getting 20% fire rate versus just leaving a level 1 fire rate up at 8% and then also throwing in something like Hawkeye. It's really more beneficial for you to focus on just like 2 or 3 mods, invest more into those 2 or 3 mods than it is to just do a lot, like a really wide range of modifications for your guns. So in the end, maybe my build looks something like this. I'm only using 4 of my mod slots, and I think I'm getting a much higher damage return versus if I went with something like trying to fill out every single individual mod slot with just a level 1 mod. Now, I probably also forgot to mention that kind of concept I think also holds true for your actual Descendants. So that's what I'm trying to illustrate here. I think it's better to just invest more specifically into a couple defensive mods so it looks something like this. And then once you invest in your Descendants defense and then your weapons offense, then I think we can come back to the Descendant and start investing more into our offensive stats. So just to illustrate what Enzo and other Descendants probably are looking for in terms of offensive mods, the first one is almost every Descendant is going to want some sort of attack mod. These tend to be more focused on skill power modifiers versus raw skill power. So you want one of those at least. And then the second thing that a Descendant is going to want is a battle mod. This is going to be some sort of raw skill power. Your basic ones are going to be just raw like attribute skill power. There's also a power increase, which is just a flat skill power increase. Later on, you'll also have access to different battle mods, like the master mods. For example, Toxic Master is both skill power and toxic skill power. So again, every sort of Descendant is going to want some combination of a battle mod and also an attack mod. You can see what category a mod is because they'll have this little title at the bottom of the mod. But then to continue on with that offensive power, you're probably going to want some sort of like crit rate. You have some different like crit rate modifiers. There's also where is it? There's skill insight somewhere here. Here it is. This is going to give you some skill crit rate hit. I know some Descendants really like crit on their ability or in their kit. The final thing again you can do is something like cooldown reduction. I have here where is it? MP conversion. This is going to give us a reduced cooldown on all of our skills while reducing some of our max MP. But really that skill cooldown is going to increase our offensive capabilities because you're getting more skills off overall. So again, my attack modifiers would maybe look something like this. You really want to invest in your one offensive power that's going to be your primary focus. I know Fire Master is now what Enzo scales with. This is just for illustration purposes. And then finally, after you focus on your defensive mods and also a offensive mod, you can probably supplement this with some sort of utility mod. One example that I like to use is auto immunity. I think another one could be like Battle of Stamina or like Spear and Shield. These are going to give you some sort of defensive um, or just utility modifier. So like auto immunity gives you some additional HP recovery. Spear and Shield is just a hybrid between defense and offensive powers. But again, the offensive scaling isn't really the best, but the defense is pretty nice to supplement what you've already invested in with like increased defense and increased HP. But that's going to wrap up my tutorial on how I tend to approach building up my characters, their weapons, and stuff like that. I know that some of the more more veteran players probably aren't really going to care about this at this point because a lot of them are already in the end game and are way beyond the point that I am currently. However, I hope that this helps newer players at least get an idea of the few things to kind of focus on early on. I know you're probably not going to have the same mod capacity I have as a level 1 Descendant because I do have a roster, a mastery level of 15, which gives you additional mod capacity for weapons and weapons and Descendants. But the concept should still hold true. Just keep focusing on your defense first as your Descendant, and then go and focus on some of the offensive mods for your weapon. And then finally, you can come into your Descendant and level up their offensive mods, supplement with some defensive or utility-based mods from there. As always, if you found this video helpful, consider subscribing to the channel. It really helps out a small creator like myself. But this was Goober Troy saying thank you for watching, and I hope to see you in the next video.